Levi Markwardt.
Yes.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, actually, good to be here this is your gym,
Yes.
your place, Athletic Republic.
Athletic Republic, correct.
So pretty cool being here. This is episode 37 of the Treatment Room Secrets podcast. So super cool, and I don't think we have spoken yet at all about kettlebells. I don't think kettlebells came up in conversation at all. We spent the last couple of days here filming a course, a series of videos that, again, you can add or correct me, but is there to provide knowledge and education to individuals who maybe have seen a kettlebell, have used the kettlebell maybe a few times, and maybe made mistakes with kettlebells, or maybe administered exercises in ways that they were not 100% sure about how they were administrating the exercises. So someone taking this course or listening to you, learning from you, should have a good idea of how to use and how to guide someone using a kettlebell. But I want to start, before we dive into the kettlebells, I want to ask you about your hunting trip that you just mentioned. And that was kind of, the hunting trip was the dictator in terms of when we're kind of filming this course, right? Because you weren't sure exactly when and how. So how was it?
It was an experience. I'm very grateful for reflection, because reflection adds a perspective that, maybe the real time, I didn't appreciate the trip while I was on the trip.
Why though? Because it was like difficult?
It was miserably cold in the morning. So I've never gone camping, as an adult. Maybe in the backyard growing up. I've never gone hunting, other than, like, we went elk hunting, elk and bear, and I've never done, outside of being in middle school and pushing deer for my dad, I've never gone deer hunting. So now I'm going elk hunting and hiking. Iowa is very flat, and so I walk a lot, but hiking's a different animal, and so here, never done it. I had a gym member ask me, encourage me to come with, and that was approximately 2 years ago. And all of a sudden, the trip is here, and I don't do any of this stuff, and now I'm doing all three on the side of a mountain in Colorado. And so it went from...
I was in Colorado.
Yeah, I was in having no experience to being immersed in this world of hunting and hiking and camping. And so I had to buy a tent, and I bought a sleeping bag, and I found out the first night I didn't buy the right sleeping bag because I woke up frozen. And it went from low 30s Fahrenheit to mid 80s Fahrenheit, and just a huge swing, and then back down. And we hiked as high as 11,300 feet, and I don't know what Iowa is, but it's nowhere close to that. And it was just a physical and emotional commitment that I guess I knew the physical, I knew it would be tough. I didn't realize how tough it would be. We were 8 days in the woods, pack in.
And tough is like coming from you, coming from you. So it must be extremely.
It was
tough.
But
did you always have like some? Was it intriguing to you? Did you always want to do something like that?
I'm sure we'll talk about my dad more, but he's been gone now 17 years, and the older I get, the more I wish I would have spent time doing what he enjoyed as well. To appreciate. And so I spent a lot of time while we were quiet, and hunting is a lot of downtime as well, and you're alone with your thoughts, whether you're actually on the hunt and you're trying to pay attention to your surroundings, or for me, going to bed and not sleeping, you're alone with your thoughts. And so I thought a lot about my dad, and how much he would have enjoyed a trip like that, and how much I wish I would have growing up, taking him up on, I was always invited to go with him, but for whatever reason, it's too cold, I'm too distracted watching TV, just whatever, and I just didn't always appreciate. I have a much new appreciation for what I experienced. I said I didn't appreciate it in real time, but again, that reflection upon.
So looking back,
looking back, I'm very glad I did it.
But I was going to ask, is your dad in a way like tougher than you thought, having gone through this trip?
He would have never. It would have been day trips for him. So, leaving in the morning and coming back in the same evening. The camping, in that atmosphere, or, in the forest where you can hear absolutely everything. And it never once did I feel like I was in danger, but the temperature swings, being so dark, having to do everything by headlamp, and it was just an experience that I guess until, like, you could have prepared or, told me about it, but until I actually did it and experienced it, I don't think I can, if I were to do it again, I would be much more aware of what I was getting myself into. And I think both my mom and my dad, looking at what they've gone through, and now looking at them as adults versus, as the child looking up to your parents, I can definitely see aspects in both of them. My mom had gone through a health scare, and I can't believe how tough that woman is. I never looked at my mom as a tough woman until I saw what she experienced and how she handled it. Same with my dad in his passing, and now getting into some of his hobbies, and like, wow, that's pretty cool to see life through somebody else's eyes, I guess, and maybe and a different experience for me for sure.
How long was the trip for?
It was a 13-hour drive, so 26 hours on the road, round trip. We were in the woods for 8 days, and so, a day and a half of driving.
Like 7 nights though? 6 nights?
Yeah, we got there, we spent the first night September 7th, and we got back on the 16th. Yeah, so whatever that works out as.
Well, it's a pretty long trip.
Yeah.
And you
15th. We got back on the 15th. Yeah.
And you were stuck with that lousy or not the right sleeping bag the whole time.
The whole time. Yep.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
So you had rough nights.
Rough nights.
Every night.
I learned how to layer my clothing a bit better.
Yeah.
But there were some nights that I didn't have the right clothing to be sleeping in. And it's just, it was an experience. It's something that I'm very glad I did it.
And the physical demand, did you feel like with all your training that you were up to par?
It's such a different stimulus. When we were climbing up to the highest point that we climbed, the over 11,000 feet, it was a lot of switchbacks. So you're on uneven ground, stepping on rocks and twigs and deadfall branches. You're up and over trees, and it's loose. So you're kind of sliding around a little bit. Especially on the way down, you're trying to control. I found that as we were going up, you'd go anywhere depending how steep it was at that time with all the different switchbacks. We were going 5 to 10 yards at a time, and then you could rest. And so I found that I recovered fine. The altitude was something different, but I was able to recover. But just that constant slow, it wasn't a real intense experience. So like with my kettlebell training, it's a lot shorter in duration, but a lot more intense in as far as effort, But just the constant, nonstop moving over the course of the 8 days we were out there, and then not sleeping well, so not recovering, and then when you're not sleeping and you're freezing at night and your body's burning calories to stay warm, and I just felt like I lost almost 9 pounds while I was out there, which I wasn't trying to do, but just the body adapting, learning to adapt. And so as a whole, when you consider the mental aspect as well of just being unsure and I'm kind of a homebody, or not kind of, I am a homebody. I didn't have the ability to connect with my wife and daughter every day like I would have really wanted to. Just hey, Dad's safe, or I miss you girls, things like that. The few times I was able to do that definitely added a calm to the trip. But yeah, as a whole, it was definitely one of the tougher things I've ever done.
How many were you on the trip?
There's 4 of us in our group. Yep.
Nice. And did you bring back any meat?
We did not. We didn't even get to fire a shot, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
But is that common? Is it?
Yeah. As I learned out there, I believe they told me that 10% of elk tags are filled.
Yeah.
And of the 10% that are filled, most of them come from outfitters and guided tours. And we were out there by ourselves, and they came up with a plan, and based on trying to track the animals and behavior patterns that they've experienced over the years. All 3 of them are much more experienced than I am, and so they had an idea how they wanted to do it. We didn't have any help from a guide. We didn't have any help from an outfitter. It was we pack in, we camp, tear down camp, go somewhere else, and just, yeah, so.
Well, but is it like always exhilarating because you never know?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, the next minute you could see an elk, right?
Right, the next minute, and we did see elk, but the timing wasn't, like, they weren't legal to shoot, or.
Oh, so only tagged ones?
Only,
you can
well,
shoot?
like, we would have, a guy with a bull tag, we saw cows. So you can't shoot the cow if you don't have a cow tag, So we did see elk, but it just didn't, the timing wasn't right, We did see a mule deer, and we had a guy that was with us that had a deer tag, but at the time that we saw him, the two of us didn't have a deer tag. We, only had a cow elk tag, so it just bad luck. And
you took some time off from kettlebell training?
I did take some time off. Yeah,
you didn't feel like carrying one with you?
My pack ended up being about 50 pounds, and that turned out to be plenty. Yeah, 50 pounds doesn't sound a lot,
no, it does.
But when you get it on your back and you're carrying it for hours at the time, it was enough. Yeah.
Did you feel any altitude sickness?
I had headaches, but I don't know if that was because of the altitude, because I was dehydrated, or. It's just one of those things. Yeah, so it wasn't bad.
How was it taking a break? Was that the longest break you've taken from kettlebell training in a while?
Yes. It was, I really enjoy kettlebell training. It's really become my identity. And so that was tough. It was something that, obviously my body's fine and it'll adjust, it'll recover from not using the bells, but mentally is the tough part. And so, yeah,
probably a good
I did.
Thing, no?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's good to be stretched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming back from it, it's only been a couple weeks. Are you?
Yeah, not even. It was a week from today.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we left a week from today.
Wow.
So it's yeah.
Well, I'm glad you survived the trip, and
yes.
you're with us. You're with us today.
For sure.
It's awesome. So tell me, with kettlebell specifically, when did you start? I know, and again, as part of the course, you kind of told the funny story in this gym.
Yeah.
One of the members who came, and you can tell that story. But looking back now, before that moment, when was that moment, which we can expand?
We're looking at like 12 years ago now,
so
11, 12
pre
years.
Those 12 years, did you feel you had were you intrigued about this kettlebell thing? Was it something that you wanted to invest more time in and waiting for the opportunity, or not really?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I had been introduced to the sport of kettlebell training, and at that time in my life, where my business was, it didn't click. It didn't intrigue me at all.
What type of things were you doing?
At that time, me personally, I was doing a lot of bodyweight exercise. I had been introduced to a gentleman by the name of Ross Enamite, who is a well-known boxing trainer and just a physical culturist. He's about my age, and I had been introduced to him. This is before social media exploded, and so I was doing a lot of his stuff, which resonated well with me. So a lot of bodyweight training that would have been burpees and pull-ups and sledgehammer swings and things like that. I really had grown tired of traditional weightlifting, the bench press and squat and deadlift. It just didn't resonate with me anymore, for whatever reason. And
it's kind of boring, no?
I feel it is. Other people really enjoy it. To each their own.
To each their own. Yeah.
Other people don't like feeling like they're about to throw up, and I enjoy that for whatever reason.
Fair enough. So maybe because I agree with you. So maybe the problem is you and me. And not them, but I do agree with you though. But yes, please.
Yeah. So at that time, I was very happy with what I was doing. I wasn't bored by any means, and I think that the biggest problem I had was with the kettlebell itself was I mistakenly had looked at it as a dumbbell with a handle, and I talk a little bit about that in the kettlebell course, and I just decided that I'm not going to spend that kind of money on kettlebells and get enough of them that a wide range of people can use, not just me, but in my gym.
And you already have dumbbells.
And I already had dumbbells, and so why would I buy a fancy dumbbell, spend that money on a fancy dumbbell? And to be, full transparency, my gym wasn't generating enough revenue where I had some extra income where I could spend it on things like that. It was more of this is a necessity. The other thing is that I know that I need to learn in person and the person that was introducing this to me wasn't local. And so I was going to be unable to actually learn how to use them effectively to the point where I could teach someone else. I just wasn't, logistically, the timing wasn't right.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that was a few years later, move forward a few years, and the story that I shared with on the kettlebell course was that I had he still is a member of my gym, and he had approached me and said, Levi, I would love to become a member of your gym. I bought these kettlebells in hopes that I would use them in my office in my downtime, and they're just collecting dust. And I know now that I have to, leave my office, leave my house, and go to a gym in order to get away from the distractions of work and life, in order to focus on getting any exercise done. It was a wonderful thought, but it's just not for me. And so he had two 20 kilo bells and two 24 kilo bells, both cast iron pairs. And I'm like, sure. I traded out I believe it was a 6-month membership at the time. This is before I even started with kettlebells. So I had these 4 kettlebells. Now they're collecting dust in my gym because I didn't know how to use them. I only had that one brief introduction to them, and they just kind of sat there. And my very first client after being certified happened to be back in town. He's a couple years younger than me, and he was just at the gym, and we were catching up a little bit, and he had noticed the kettlebells and knew that I didn't know what I was doing with them. And
is this story taking place in this gym, by the way?
No, a different location.
Okay.
Yep. And he had he knew that I didn't have any experience, and he said, "You want me to show you how to use them?" And I said, "Like, how do you know how to use them?" And he says, "Well, I'm an RKC," and "You're a what?" I don't know what that is, And so I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, if you know what to do with them," and he took me through the basics, the swing, the clean, the press, squats, get-ups, snatching, things like that. And it was over the course of a few hours, so we didn't rush. I started, I could barely do, not because it was a strength issue, but I didn't work on any of my mobility. So I could barely do a get-up safely with, 16 kilos. I think I started with 20 pounds because a 20-pound dumbbell, because the 20 kilo bell that I had I was unsafe with it, and so it was one of those things where my mind just kind of exploded. Like, this is unbelievable, and what I felt.
For context, what was the weight you said you did for the barbell?
Yeah, I got up to over 200 pounds on a barbell with a get up.
Yeah.
And so to start with, I couldn't do a 20 kilo or 44 pounds safely, and he scaled me back down to a 20-pound dumbbell.
Did it hurt that ego that we were talking about yesterday?
My ego is smashed. And that was kind of one of the intriguing parts, is like, now I'm challenged. Now I'm embarrassed, and I'm challenged. I need to improve. And so after learning the basics and to move safely, I worked on my own here for the next year and a half, and with tips from him, of course. And I eventually went and got my RKC as well, the Russian Kettlebell Challenge, and from Pavel's teachings. And that's where I started, and I did that for years and years and years up until I'm 45 now, and as I was turning 40, that's when I started I turned 40 in May, and in March of that year, I had went to the Arnold Classic, the bodybuilding expo, just to experience it. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea the amount of vendors and different sports that were there as well. And
does that change location every year, or is it?
No, that's in Columbus, Ohio.
Always in Columbus, Ohio?
Well, they go all over the world with these conventions, but in the U.S. it's in Columbus, Ohio. So my first time, it was about 11 or 12 hour drive. A friend of mine from the gym here, we went and we knew that there were a kettlebell competition that was going on there, and only practicing and being familiar with hardstyle, I'd never been to an actual competition before, and it blew my mind. The amount of weight that people were using for the reps they were doing, for the time they were doing them, I completely opened a whole new world to me. And as a former athlete, as someone who is driven, who does have that ego, not that I was ever going to, I never felt like I fit into the hardstyle world I always took the hard style methods, but tried to be more endurance based with them. I like that feeling of.
What do you mean by hard style, though?
The hard style being the creating as much tension as you can, with the cast iron kettlebell. So you're doing, lower rep movements with heavier loads and making sure that you're creating that tension. You're doing the same movements, but it's a different technique. It's a different methodology. If you were to take a hard style approach to kettlebell sport, you'd never make it, because kettlebell sport is about being efficient as possible over the given time, over the given exercise. And kettlebell sport is more of a skill dependent discipline, where you have to you become more of a specialist versus a generalist.
But do you think that's is that different than, like, let's say, weightlifters?
If you were going to compare it to weightlifting, like for the general populace, I would say that kettlebell sport would be more similar to weightlifting, as in snatch, clean, and jerk. You need better programming, you need better coaching, you need more specificity, versus just exercising in general, which you could absolutely do those exercises in your everyday programming, but you're not probably spending the time on developing the skill to be as efficient as possible. And so one's not right, one's not wrong, whatever your goals are. Some people could care less about competition and growing the sport or progressing as an athlete. And other people I just want to be healthy. I want to be, leaner or stronger, or, feel better about myself. And other people are like, I don't care what I look like. I just want to be as strong as possible, or to put as many reps as I can overhead. And so you just got to find what's going to help you get to who you want to be the fastest and the safest. Yeah. And so, but the idea of competition really stuck out to me, and so that was kind of. And
you also something you said, I heard you say, was that ego, or that maybe that athlete mentality never leaves you.
Right.
So since you were an athlete, you were a wrestler in college.
Yep.
Since then, where was that taking you, that athlete mindset, until you were exposed to that competition and taken on this journey with kettlebells?
So, from a competitive standpoint, around here, small market, Northwest Iowa, road races would be, and I'm not a runner, and so I would participate in an occasional, anywhere from a 5K to a half marathon. Yeah. I would do.
But just But just because of that?
Just because.
To get that adrenaline rush and to be part of a competition and try and compete and do your best.
Train for something and try to perform. Yeah. Unfortunately, I got caught up in the world of slow pitch softball, and that turned into an unhealthy obsession, traveling all over and, getting involved with alcoholism and slow pitch is a combination that turns into, the ego gets out of control and something like that. And so I knew as I was approaching 40, running was not ever going to be something I'm good at. I needed to step away from the slow pitch world. I loved playing, but man, it's too much as far as the emotional side of you mix emotion and too much alcohol, and it's not good. But so that I loved kettlebells. Seeing the competition side of kettlebells flipped a switch in me, and that was like the beginning to where we are now. And so
can we give just like a brief description, like what are these competitions? Like until I met you, I didn't know that these competitions existed.
Yeah.
And so that's one. And also, do you think that, like you thought before that person showed up in your gym with the 2 sets of kettlebells, do you think that even today a lot of people still just think that it's a different shaped dumbbell, or a dumbbell with a weird handle?
Sure. I think here in the US, the amount of people that will, when they find out that like what I do, kettlebell sport, the almost the immediate reaction is, oh, like CrossFit? And no, and I don't mean to throw shade at CrossFit, but it's not CrossFit. It's not CrossFit at all. And CrossFit is fine. Those competitions, it's just not what I do. But that is the general conception of the public is, oh, you must be. CrossFit's brand is enormous, and it's far-reaching, and from a marketing and a branding standpoint, it's amazing. It's something maybe I'm jealous of. But from my niche world in the world of wellness or fitness, physical culture, kettlebell sport is much different. And what you see them using kettlebells on the CrossFit Games is nowhere close to what the actual professionals, beyond what I'm able to do. The world champions.
Because why is a CrossFit athlete in some way like a jack of all trades?
Yeah,
like
they're
able to do it.
They're
good
great
in a lot of different things.
Very good in a lot of different things, right?
But not as good as a professional with a kettlebell.
Yes. So if you look at the guys that I look up to, the multiple world champions. I know Denis Vasilev. I've been to his workshops. I've seen him at competitions. I communicate with him on social media. Wonderful man. 11-time world champion. Does things with kettlebells that I am in awe of. Somebody that I really look up to, and it's just one of those things where it'd be talking out of pocket a little bit. A sniper, he would be a sniper versus somebody that's just a machine gunner. Highly skilled, knows exactly how to get to where he needs to get. Has done the math.
Yep.
And all that kind of stuff versus someone that just goes out and is able to get the job done. Might be some mass casualties everywhere, but the mission was complete.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to throw shade at CrossFit by any means by saying this. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
And so the general public, I think that's kind of where they get. And so the competition as a whole. So I went in there as someone that was pretty good at a lot of different things, and when I saw, this was a sport competition. I'm more involved. I compete in sport events, but I'm more involved in the marathon side of things, and specifically half marathon and games.
Which the half marathon is
30 minutes, and so
of a specific exercise.
One exercise. So I cut my teeth in the competition world with Team USA in 2018 and 2019. I traveled overseas. My event was half snatch, half marathon, which is a 30-minute event. It's one 32-kilo bell, and you do as many reps as you can in that 30 minutes. You can switch as often as you need to. And so that was, I went the marathon route.
Switch arms, like you
Switching arms, yep.
So what is the most efficient way? Do you decide how many you will do with one arm and then switch to the other arm? Will you alternate every rep?
No, you don't ever, in my opinion, you don't ever want to go to the point of fatigue before you switch, because once you cross that line or you reach that threshold,
no going
there's
back.
And so ideally, as I've gotten better, my best results, my highest total right now for an online competition for 30 minutes with a 32-kilo bell, half snatch, is 483 reps.
Wow.
And that is by doing 12 to 13 reps at a time.
Wow.
And then I'll switch. And then there might become times where I might have to drop to 8 reps and just recover a little bit.
Do you ever get to drop the weight? Or
Nope.
So you just switch arms?
Switch arms.
And are you allowed to move at all? Or do you have to keep your feet in the same place?
Your feet can move a little bit. But you do have to fixate each rep. And that's another big difference between just training and exercising and competing. Is there's benchmarks. And that was something else that drew me to competition, was that there's an expectation of movement and quality, and you just can't, a gym PR doesn't necessarily mean that you can do that in a competition, like with any exercise.
And vice versa too?
Yeah.
If you can't reach a certain number in the gym, it doesn't necessarily mean that on the competition day you might not surprise yourself?
Some people show up game day, and do well, They're called Olympic champions. That's not me. But, I really appreciate the fact that you had to have what we call fixation, whether it's overhead or in the rack position. Having standards to meet, having a judge you, that was something that was attractive to me, just because as a competitor, as a wrestler, I always had a referee, keeping things within the rules. One of my arguments against just random competition is, I think competition can be healthy, but it gets to the point where, or that competition is healthy, but it can get to the point where it becomes unhealthy, because if we're racing or we're half repping, in order to reach a time or a result, and we're cutting corners, And that happens all too often with sports and competition. And I like the idea that I've been no rep in competition. I've lost because I'm trying to rush or trying to hurry. And so to have somebody with a standard set of rules that they're applying to my movements, it helps me. It makes it more pure in my mind. And so that was something else that was attractive to me is just being judged.
And so when you're doing a half marathon, Snatch, for example, are you all guys, whoever's competing, all doing it at the same time?
Yeah, at Worlds, there was, I think, 13 platforms. There's 13 of us all doing the same thing at the same time.
And until then, you have to qualify for the different levels and championships?
Yes, yeah. So you have to qualify to make the world team. And then, there's qualifying events all over. And since COVID, you can qualify online and things like that. But
yeah, and you said you're 45.
45, yep.
And so how long do you predict you can do this for at this level?
At this level, in my mind,
ego aside,
I got another couple years.
Objectively, if you had a client like yourself, let's say,
one of my main competitors is a few years older than me in Norway, and wonderful guy. I've learned much from him. Highly competitive athlete. I want to say he's 2 or 3 years older than me, and I think that as I watch him age well, I have that same expectation for myself. Whether or not, who knows, a random freak injury or accident can happen. But I expect to be able to perform at this level here, and then maybe once I hit that 48 to 50, to slow down a little bit. That's in my mind where I'm at right now.
But you will. Do you think it's something you'll push as long as you can? Like
Yeah, and when I can't compete at the level I'm competing at or where I'm satisfied, I think I'll, be able to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm almost. For the last since yesterday, since you brought the word ego up for the first time, I've been nodding and agreeing with you, and because I also I see a bit of that in me as well. When this ego tries to play tricks on you.
Yeah.
I just think that ego has a negative connotation attached to it, and when you say ego, I nod and agree, but I almost convert it to a different word that I like that you use, because again, it seems like it's just this ego thing is just driving you forward all the time. Driving you forward and making you set goals and meet them.
Yeah, like anything, it's good but can be bad
and make mistakes. But like you said, I think with the programming, that you had to put your ego aside and find a coach that can program you, which has helped you get better.
Yes,
it's even that, maybe you need the ego to do it your way, make a mistake, reset. Yeah, find someone that can guide you better.
That's how it happened with me. My ego told me that I am completely capable of doing. I am Levi. I can do this. I don't need help. And once I failed at reaching my goal, and I realized, okay, I'm not going to work this hard to get the result that I'm getting.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe you've hit lower points, but it sounded like your low point, your failure, it wasn't even something bad. It was just you realizing they didn't meet your standard.
Yes, and exactly right. I had ranked as master of sport in my very first Worlds competition, and that was the goal, to earn that ranking. But I realized that I had left so many reps on the table, and that I was capable of much more. I was capable of that world-class ranking, but I knew after the performance, I realized, okay, physically, you have the ability to get to this next level. You don't have the experience, programming-wise, to get anywhere close to that. You need help. And that's when I decided, I am not going to work this hard to come up this short. And so you can work hard and get nowhere close to your goals. Yeah. You can be the hardest worker in the room, but if you're not improving, then why? So why not? And not that I work less hard now, but I'm way more efficient, and it's driving me forward versus, And so we started with the single belt training and developing that, because that's who I felt that I was, and then I got asked to compete in the 2-bell event, and so we went that route for a while, and that was a whole new experience going from a multi-switch single bell event to 2 bells for 10 minutes.
And that means holding literally 2 dumbbells.
Yeah, well, two kettlebells.
Two.
2 kettlebells for 10 minutes. Yeah, and once you set them down, your set's over. And so to survive the 10 minutes, to perform at a high level, it was something like training for 2 bells in 10 minutes was the hardest physical thing. The amount of times that I would set the bells down, the amount of times that my coach's name is Michael's son. I want to make sure that he gets mentioned.
Yeah.
The amount of times that I would send him a message with expletives, like, I don't know who I told him, dude, I'm a 43-year-old American, not a 24-year-old Russian. I don't know who you think you are. Treat me who and it's one of those. But kidding aside, like I need him. I want to be pushed. In training, it doesn't matter if I fail. Like I take it personal, and then I hopefully am able to adapt and recover. And his guidance has been invaluable. And so it's shaped me as a kettlebell sport athlete, and it's helped me in my own business sense in that I treat my own online clients with the expectation that he has for me, and I've learned so much from him, indebted to him.
And also with clients here, like do you feel like you was almost
so
help develop you as
sure,
guiding others to develop themselves?
Yes. Anytime you work closely with an individual, it doesn't have to be training, but anytime you work closely with an individual as the mentor or the leader or whatever you want to call it, you're gonna learn from your clients as well. And whether it's my middle school kids that I'm training or my adults that are in my age demographic that I'm working with, it helps me become a better, like, how can I adjust this program to meet your, maybe you have a limitation because of an old injury, or maybe you have a schedule issue. Like, how can we work around your family and job so you can still get in here to get the needs, to meet your needs as well physically. And so, as we get older and we get busier and busier, time is, I think when we're young, we think we have infinite time. And then, as we age, time becomes a commodity that we wish we would have taken advantage of. And, how do we somebody in their 30s and 40s with younger kids at home or in high school, and they're traveling with sports and they're working their full-time job, how do I get that person to focus on themselves so they can be there for their kids as they get older and meet those needs of wellness and moving well and aging well and eating well and wanting to do that stuff versus feeling like they have to do that stuff.
Yeah, and that's why, and on that topic, it's beautiful to see. We saw your daughter training here right across the other side of this wall, killing it in the gym with her kettlebells.
Yes.
Looked intense, and she's a world champion.
She's a junior world
champion.
Yep.
Also in the half marathon. Right?
Yeah, half marathon, half snatch. Yep. So she's 20 now, about to turn 21, but she just now started to compete with the adults because of COVID and because of going to college. She hasn't competed, in that category for quite a while, and so now she's getting more prepared again, and she qualified for the world team for next May to go to Denmark in the half snatch, half marathon.
Phenomenal. And do you get to work out with her sometimes?
So when she's home in the summer, she's starting her master's program, and so she'll be leaving here in November, and she'll do everything online with me. I'll program for her, and we'll prepare, and we'll wait and see if we actually get to go to Denmark or not. We'll see what the world is doing and what her life is like, how busy she is. But yeah, she's I couldn't be more proud of her as the growth, and she'll tell you too that competing as a teenager overseas, having some other person from another country judging you, she's really grown as not only as an athlete, as a competitor, but just as an individual. Has been able to keep competition in that healthy category. and she thrives in that environment, and it's carried over to her schoolwork. It's carried over to.
It doesn't like eat at her if she,
Right.
if she fails or doesn't
right.
meet
Yeah,
her.
yeah, fails.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, she's been able to take it all in stride. She's had some fantastic sets, both with 2 bells and single bells, and like anything, come up short from our goals. And it's just part of competition. Like you wake up on the day of a competition, and sometimes you didn't sleep well. If you're traveling, you're in a new bed, or you're not eating the food you're used to, or maybe you're in Europe and you flew overseas, and that's a whole nother conversation. So yeah.
So you had your daughter pretty young.
Yeah, let's do the math on that. So
fairly
so
young,
24.
And you went on a journey. You said that you weren't always this fit. You didn't always have those biceps. You don't have the six pack. Did she see you also grow in that journey, or was she only exposed to you? As the father with the six pack.
She used to call me Fatty Daddy.
Fatty Daddy.
Yeah.
That must have tweaked your ego a little bit.
Yeah, that didn't always feel the best, right? Yeah. So, no, when my dad had gotten sick when I was 28, or it had passed when I was 28. I had just turned 28, and she was just a little toddler, and you could see that my habits, my bad habits, were definitely being picked up on by her. And so the extra snacks and whenever she got to go with dad somewhere, there was always treats involved and things like that. And my wife has never been that person as far as having an overeating issue or being addicted to the point of unhealthy from choosing the wrong foods or the amounts of the wrong foods.
Yeah.
And I could see that even after I started to, it's time for me to take care of myself and start making these changes. You could see that I had done I'd made it more difficult. She was used to a certain type of way of living with dad, and now dad's trying to change, but then where do you draw that line? Do you continue to if you look at childhood obesity in the US right now, it's at alarming. Like if we don't reverse this,
it's all-time high, right?
It's unreal what we're doing to our kids, all in the name of convenience or just keeping them quiet, or our kids are so addicted. It's funny. It's not funny. It's sad, but it's funny. After I had lost my weight and Shay was older and starting to get more active, and she'd always danced and played some school sports and things like that. And so we would do some things, maybe she would have a protein shake as opposed to a standard American treat, right? Or soda. We banned soda pretty early in my house after I started to get healthy, and the amount of people that would question, I can't believe you give your kids protein shakes or protein bars, and I can't believe you give your kids Pop-Tarts and soda. Why would you question what I'm doing, trying to promote a lifestyle that is going to prove to give you rewards versus make you sick? And so that excess, and when you develop those habits as a child, and the longer you have those habits, the harder it is to change. And we had talked about it last night when the world got put on pause because of COVID, and we were locked into our houses, and all of a sudden DoorDash and Uber Eats and people are getting your groceries for you. You don't do anything anymore. All we did for a year and a half was stream TV shows and movies into our house and eat junk. And 3 years later, people are like, "Oh, I can't seem to lose this 30 pounds of COVID weight." Well, that's because you haven't changed your habits since you developed a new routine and you stuck to it.
But so what do you think that is? Because there are the people in COVID, who decided to use it as the time to make the switch in their life, that were maybe living that way pre-COVID, and now we're buying kettlebells, we're setting up our home gym, we're going on runs, eating healthy. It's so interesting, how even people I know, I'm assuming people you know as well.
Absolutely, there was a big divide. Absolutely,
So interesting.
Those that were, it seems to be those that were maybe on the road to illness went that way, and those that were already committed kind of went further the other way.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah,
different. Again, I'm not trying to judge people. Just my observational experience of living through that time.
Do you remember when you were fatty daddy back then? Do you remember, like, also, can you put yourself in the shoes of yourself back then? Just remembering your general day-to-day mindset. Did that quickly change as well with your way of life?
Yeah, I think I'd gotten into a routine of just surviving life, not trying to thrive in life, not having expectation for myself. One of the big things I'll talk about with my clients is just having that expectation. Like, if you don't have an expectation, it doesn't have to be, every day or every hour, a minute or every day, but if you don't have an expectation and you're not intentional with your decisions and you just kind of exist, I mean, that's all you're going to get back. This life will give you what you want if you're willing to take it or willing to do what's necessary to take it. And
you need that self-belief to have expectation, right?
Absolutely. And I had gotten to the point where, I had been a fairly disciplined athlete, through college to wrestle, and we had our daughter, and I had a job and was just existing, and until I had that scare until my dad had gotten sick and passed and woke me up, I was just totally satisfied just living that, I'm going to be a dad, and I'm a husband, and I'm just going to, I'm just going to settle into life like I shared, like, that's, the last lesson my dad taught me while he was on this earth was like, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to live life. You're just going to, exist. And that was never his intention. Obviously, he wasn't trying to, but I'm very grateful to have learned that lesson from him, just through my own observation, just as he was becoming more and more ill. And so, it's been an amazing journey or process to go from where I was to where I am, and to where I hope to continue to be. Like, it's not a I haven't reached the end. I want to keep evolving and adapting, and I don't know what the next thing, maybe I'll get a wild hair again and I'll become a hunter, and I'm going to try to be the next Cameron Haynes. Of course not, but who knows what the next phase chapter of my life is. Because you weren't expecting this.
You weren't expecting kettlebell.
I was not expecting this. Like we had talked, this came out of nowhere. The life I've lived the last decade was never on my radar, and so I feel very blessed and fortunate to I don't know why, in my personal belief, I don't know why the good Lord has chosen to bless me this way. I don't feel like I've earned it or deserve to do what I've been able to do, experience that I've been able to experience, to have these memories with my daughter and my wife. It's been an amazing ride.
Does your wife work out with a kettlebell?
She does.
She does?
She does, yes. Not like Shay will, not like I will, but she is very active.
That's awesome,
takes good care of herself and takes good care of me.
Yeah, you were saying, you get to eat some nice casseroles most nights.
Yeah.
Right? Avoid eating out.
I get to eat at home every night, which definitely helps me keep my calorie consumption and helps
quality of food as well.
Quality of food helps to prepare me, helps me recover, prepare me for the next day, and
Did you the name Harder to Kill? Is that tied to your story with your dad?
Yes, it is. It is.
So, literally.
That's
the mission.
That's the mission.
Be harder to kill.
Right, and I feel like I wanted something maybe a little bit clickbaity, to grab your attention. It's definitely not something like you're going to train with Levi and then you're going to be a fighter, a street fighter. You're going to be able to defend yourself. The whole point was, like, you're going to be more resilient to what life throws at you, whether that's, just being, again, more intentional with your eating. The harder you work, the easier it is to stay on your diet. The easier it is to make good choices, because you don't want to work this hard and get no results from it. If you're that person, you're going to stop working hard. You're just going to exist again.
And you also know kind of how painful tomorrow is going to be.
Yes.
So it's kind of silly to shoot yourself in the foot today, making the wrong decision. Right?
Exactly. So the whole point, again, was the harder to kill was to honor the legacy of my dad, to build a brand around my experience with him and my experience with my own fat loss and wellness, and just to give something, I think, for my daughter to remember her grandpa by, and 'cause she was very young when he passed, and just to honor just again how it changed my life, and so yeah, harder to kill is just being resilient to whatever life is throwing at you, and it could be just day to day. Maybe you're a grinder at the office, and you're at home. And that's again why I love the kettlebells. And the website didn't start till after I became, a kettlebell guy, and that's because you can train anywhere with them. You can buy 2, 3, 4 kettlebells, and you can be completely satisfied. You can check those boxes off, like we had talked about in the video series, is that you don't have to have a gym as much as I want gym memberships. You don't have to have a gym membership to be healthy and well, and that's what I want. My hope was to get people to understand is that, if you need help and guidance, you can join the website, but it's more about you taking care of you and being prepared in that regard.
Yeah, it's really cool. I did a 2-month US road trip one time, and that was my workout. I had a band and I had a 20-kilo kettlebell in my back seat. And whether you're sleeping in the car or sleeping in a hotel room or Airbnb, it's kind of easy to.
It's excuse free.
It's excuse free, and it's great, right? You can do like a great 15-20 minute circuit with even one kettlebell.
Yes.
And feel like you're working, because one of the advantages that I always liked about a kettlebell is just how functional it is. Requires functionality. You do feel like you're using your back muscles and all of your arm and your neck and your legs really at any given moment. So it almost feels like you're getting more. Again, I don't know, maybe scientifically you're not, but it feels like your body is way more engaged and you're less distracted. I always felt less distracted when performing or training with a kettlebell. Even if I had a podcast in the background or music, it almost feels like I'm unable to focus on the podcast because I'm so busy with my, focusing on my body and not hurting myself, not doing anything wrong. Whereas if you're on a machine that's super controlled, and you're just, you're pushing up, pushing down.
Autopilot.
Autopilot, and it's controlled environment. It's a simple exercise that we kind of know how to do. I've known how to do it for many years. It's very easy to be on autopilot and kind of get distracted, and you almost maybe gain an extra element of like the psychological, freedom or psychological benefit from, using something where you're engaging your full body, which I definitely find super interesting. Did you know, I mentioned to you that I took a break now for over a year from kettlebells only because I hurt myself. I won't say because of the kettlebell, but I'm assuming I had something there. But while training with a kettlebell, I kind of tweaked this little elbow thing. Have you faced any injuries since you've been on this journey? Because you're obviously killing yourself every day.
Yeah, no.
Or making it harder to kill you every day. Yeah.
Right. So, again, because of my ego and because of social media, and sometimes you drink your own Kool-Aid a little bit, and you believe your own hype. So I definitely have crossed that line. Thankfully, nothing serious. But you tweak your shoulder or a bicep, like you talked about, or your forearm. The kettlebell can be very unforgiving, and if you're using too much weight, and we talk about that in this video series as well. Some of the biggest mistakes that you'll see people make is jumping up too much weight too soon, or too much work. You're like, I really like this, so I'm going to do it again tomorrow. I'm going to do it again the next day, and you just too much volume, and your body can't recover from. And so it's not that I had bad injuries with kettlebells, but certainly things that should have easily been avoided. But because I am who I am, and I train the way I train, and I take more risk than is certainly necessary. You kind of you get caught up in that. I need more views on social media. I'm gonna do some crazy things or hard things that that was a younger Levi, and thankfully I have slowly learned to back off a little bit. I did have I had a really freak injury on my arm here. I just had that surgery to remove some connective tissue.
Was it a freak? It was like a freak accident?
Yeah, it went from just having an uncomfortable sensation, a shearing injury, which is relatively minor, and then will recover with time. But I had that crazy, random freak infection of cellulitis that really kind of complicated things, and because I wasn't in pain after the infection was under control.
You kept pushing it.
Yeah, you just keep pushing it.
Yeah.
Keep pushing it, and because.
But did it stem from a kettlebell workout?
That's the theory. That just a random, developed. The shearing injury is the how I understand it was the fascia being separated from the muscle at that point of contact, whether it was from too much weight or just landed goofy one time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough to where I was concerned or that I should stop. It was just kind of a very small, minor issue. But again, because that was followed up with an infection, the infection kind of blew it up, and then once the infection was taken care of, like the pain was gone, there wasn't anything that I was concerned about. My primary care provider was not concerned about it because there was no pain. I didn't have fevers or any symptoms other than some swelling, but it just turned into, over time, and a couple more infections that probably weren't random anymore. It turned into what it turned into, and so now, I hesitate to even share it because people freak out, like, oh my gosh, it's there's people much stronger than me, both men and women, using bells at a higher percentage of their body weight than what I'm using. It's not a kettlebell. It's not even a bad technique thing. It's just one of those. It's one of those things. I think I shared with you, like, if you were to step off a curb and roll your ankle, that's not the sign that you need to stop walking. It happens. Mistakes happen, or you weren't paying attention, or you weren't. And it's just one of those things where I don't blame the kettlebell at all. It's more, again, my lack of self-care or my desire to continue to train. It's just one of those things. It happens. It was an expensive reminder.
Yeah.
That I need to be more aware of what's going on.
I know, I guess more generic injuries have you faced with the kettlebell that forced you maybe to put it aside for a bit and rehab?
Just some shoulder stuff. Just
usually shoulders.
Yeah. As a wrestler, an old wrestler, shoulders are an easily injured joint. My shoulders just got beat up a lot from wrestling over the years, and probably I've had multiple cortisone shots in my shoulders. I've had an epidural in my neck. It's just one of those things where just a lot of wear and tear, and again, you get excited, you get challenged, and you push the envelope, and sometimes it pushes back. So.
And you try and adapt. What is how often do you train?
I try to do right now. I'm going to have to adjust how I do things, but prior to this surgery, I was doing 2 days a week of single bell focus, 2 days a week of double bell focus, and then a couple of days of just what I refer to as GPP, general physical preparation, where it might be on the rower, doing burpees, swinging a sledgehammer, just some stuff that's not related to kettlebells, but will help me in my kettlebell journey.
Do you enjoy those days?
I do. I do. I just like to work hard. I like to be pushed. I like that feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah. Do you take a day off though?
Generally, I take Saturdays completely off.
Nice.
Not because I want to, but because I know I need to.
Yeah.
And I try to when I say that, I try to scale the intensity back. So like we had talked that you don't have to use a max effort bell all the time. You can manipulate your paces with lighter load. You can work. You can do more work. Switch fewer times with a lighter bell. So it's not always that I'm using my competition loading or heavier than my competition loading. It's more about, for me, it's that peace of mind of getting into a training session of trying to get better
Are those days difficult for you? Those
Sure.
Saturdays?
Like,
It's weird, no? It's supposed to be the easiest day.
right. Yeah. No. And you can, like I said, you can manipulate so many variables that, you know, it's one of those things where, and that's one of the things I learned from Michael is that it doesn't have to always be heavy. It doesn't have to.
No, but
always,
in terms of like taking a day off.
oh yeah, taking a day off. Yeah. No, I don't enjoy that.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it
That's-
because my mind just goes and
Yeah.
I can quiet the mind when I exercise. When I don't exercise, I'm always wondering, you know, and that's that whole, you know, coming from where I came from. It's funny because, you know, I wrestled heavyweight, and a lot of the lightweights would make fun of me, you know, for being lazy, you know, not wanting to do anything extra, just doing what coach made us do. And now those lightweights are a lot of times a little bit too heavy, and I get a kick out of reminding them, like, hey, remember we used to be the opposite, you know, and you're doing the bare minimum now, and I can't wait to do something.
Yeah.
And so it's funny how life will do that. But yeah, no, I don't enjoy rest days.
Yeah, I'm sure. And when with food, is it difficult as well?
Food is difficult.
Like, because you
Yep.
kind of lose that structure in the day.
Food is a challenge for me. It will always be a challenge for me.
But specifically on those days off as well.
Oh, days off are worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
Sitting still is difficult. That's the one thing I did appreciate about the hunting trip is that we were always hiking and moving, and when we were sitting still, I didn't have a refrigerator I could run to.
That's the thing. It's like when we're forced to. It's kind of like we were talking about the chairs. Like they're
Yeah.
designed for us to kind of fall into. So if you're sitting on the couch and you're watching a movie, and
Well,
the fridge is right there, and
yeah,
the cabinet is right there, and the
I'm gonna
pantry
eat.
is right there, like
Yep.
what else is there to do?
Yep. I'm distracted. Let's put something in my
putting,
mouth.
we're putting ourselves in the perfect environment
Yes.
to have no control over what
Yes.
we stuff down our faces and
Yes.
how much we stuff down our faces.
Yep.
Because, you know, even me, like when I'm on my day off or if I'm having a bad day and you are watching a movie and you do want a snack, it's fine, right?
Yep.
But the movie's 2 hours and the snack lasts for 2 minutes. So what the hell are you supposed to do? you
Right.
know?
Right. Yep. No, I struggle like anybody else does.
People won't believe you though because
Right.
of what you look like.
Right. Right.
is
No,
that-
but every day is a battle. Eating is the hardest part by far.
So wrestling, what's the heavyweight threshold?
The limit when I was competing was 285.
That's the limit, but what's the minimum for? Is there a minimum?
Boy. No, yeah. So 197 was the weight class right below me when I was competing. So I think you had to weigh anything over 197. I think could.
So, but big boys only.
Yeah, it was. I competed that 260, 265 range pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is in kilos off the top of my head, but that was, you know, kind of where I was. And then after I stopped competing out of college, you know, I lost some weight just because I wasn't as active. I wasn't eating as much. You know, I didn't have the all-you-can-eat cafeteria on campus, you know, for 3 meals a day. And so I stopped eating quite as much. I wasn't lifting weights. I kind of dropped down to that 240-pound range. Got married. My wife and I had our daughter. And, you know, then it was, okay, I just want to be home. I just want to go to work and I just want to be home with my family. And pretty soon, you know, the more you're at home, the more availability the food is. You start eating more again. And my weight climbed up to that 290-pound range. And that's my highest known weight. I don't know if I got heavier than that or not, but that's kind of where I was when my dad had passed. And so that's when, and I was heavier than he ever was. I had become sedentary, and so I knew that it was time. Now is the time to change something in my life. And yeah, again, just very grateful that it stuck, because so many people have that moment that they can look to, but are unable to utilize it fully. And again, I don't know why it clicked with me. I certainly don't feel like I'm different or special. I'm just very grateful.
Yeah. With the weight thing, do you find yourself more inclined or want to, when you see someone walk into your gym who's obese, overweight, doesn't matter what age they are, do you kind of want to give them that extra attention to kind of help them?
I kind of, to be completely open, I kind of scare those people away, because I am so excited and passionate about what I do. That individual has to make that decision Like it's hard to walk into a gym, a commercial gym. It's hard to be that vulnerable. It's in that situation. It's hard to ask for help.
Yeah.
A lot of times people feel like they failed, whether themselves or their family or whatever. And
would you classify this as a commercial gym?
Yes. Yeah.
It bothers me when you say that, only because it's so cool here.
Oh, thank you.
And the vibe here is so cool as well. And when I think of commercial gym, I think of the ones where you pay $9.99 a month and they're packed with people.
You think of a Planet Fitness or
thank you. Yes.
Something like that. Yeah. I have monthly memberships and people have 24-hour access, so I do qualify.
Is it 24-hour access?
Yep.
Oh well.
I do qualify as a commercial gym.
Yeah. So, sorry, it's just
that's fine.
It's my it's what pops up in my brain.
Yeah,
I think of a Planet Fitness
sense.
when you say that.
Makes sense.
So you think that you scare those people? Like you would scare those people off if you?
No, I do. I know I've run them off unintentionally, just because like, oh yeah, we can do this, we can do that, I can help you with this, and all of a sudden. So over time, as I've gotten more experience, so I'm 17 years into keeping this weight off, and the first 5, 6, 7 years it was like Levi's running people out, and now I'm more to that. Like I'm much more reserved now. Like I'm willing to help anybody that wants the help, but until you make that your priority, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Like until you're willing to do what it takes, I'm just some guy, and so I'm much more reserved now. People have to show me that they're willing to do what it takes. It's in there. It's in anyone. It's never easy. There's lots of marketing out there that'll tell you all you have to do is this, or all you need to do is that, and a few you take this shake, or you consume this pill, or you put this wrap on. There's all kinds of stuff out there that'll
take this injection now.
Ozempic or whatever it's called, and no, it'll never be easy. Anybody that tells you that it's easy or this will make it easy is a liar. Eating is the hardest part. It will always be the hardest part. There's too many distractions out there telling you that you're okay how you are, and you don't have to change for you, and self-love, and my whole thought on that is you absolutely have to love yourself. I'm not disagreeing with that, but what are your actions showing? If you're where I was, that wasn't self-love. I wasn't encouraging myself to be my best version of me. I was, But
then are we like for those people that maybe you used to scare off, are we waiting for them to have whatever that big moment is in life that will put them on the track? You think? Because
I think I do wait for that, whatever is going to get their attention.
Because if someone doesn't have
have that,
or doesn't have a moment, like for you it was a tragic moment, but if someone maybe doesn't face that, or maybe faces that moment too late, I always think, like, is there an efficient way to push someone?
That's a great question.
On the track,
I like the analogy of the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I can write the perfect program or help you with your diet, but it will always come down to the individual. Like, from an exercise standpoint, most of my training is in that 30-minute window. Like I try to keep my intensity high or my effort high. If it's not intensity being load or my effort being high, within that 30 minutes. And you think about 30 minutes, I'm not doing the math. What's 30 minutes of your day? Very, very small, right? Yeah. And so what are you doing when you're not at the gym? That's what makes the difference. Like I can exercise 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week, and go on a walk every night. I can walk 3 miles a night or whatever. And I'm getting that activity in. But what are you doing when you're not? So that's an hour of walking, a half hour of exercise, an hour and a half a day of movement. That's nothing. You can out-eat that in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And so if you don't have that desire to be disciplined when no one's watching, or when you're not at the gym, that's what makes me successful, or allowed me to be successful, versus somebody else. Is like you can put the effort in the gym, you can show up every time and you can kill it, but we lie to ourselves.
Yeah. What's the rebound number? You said it's like something astonishing where
it's under 5% of people that lose significant weight they keep it off.
Yeah, it's like all those again, I don't know this personally, but they say all that show the Biggest Loser.
Yeah.
how most of them just come back to
Go
the
back to
same
their old habits.
weight, or even worse. Yeah.
The unfortunate thing with a show like The Biggest Loser is that
Would you watch it back in the day?
I did watch it back in the day.
Is it still
yeah.
running, by the way?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But I did watch it frequently back when it was in its popularity.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah. It's kind of entertaining. Sadly entertaining.
Sadly entertaining,
Yeah.
correct. And the biggest problem with that is, it just wasn't a sustainable way to exercise and eat. And for me, I think the biggest part of my success is like I'm finding something that I enjoy doing and I look forward to doing. So the amount of those people that would be forced to run or forced to do burpees or forced to do, like, they don't enjoy that.
And it didn't look right.
It looks miserable.
Just thinking about it now, it did not look right.
Right, and so
Yeah.
if you're forcing somebody to do something, like, we have to do hard things,
Yeah.
and we don't always want to do hard things. But the point is, like, doing hard things well, or just going through the motions doing hard things. Like, if it's not something you enjoy, you're not going to stick to it. If it's not a sustainable way of eating, like how I've adapted my diet over 17 years, I went through different phases in my life and different chapters of my life where at one time I ate a certain way, and then that was no longer going to be, I was no longer going to be successful eating that way. So I had to change and adapt, and now I'm eating this way, and now I'm eating the same with exercise. I went from not knowing what a kettlebell was to only using kettlebells, and just like there was a time in my life where I thought I had to run to lose weight, I love burpees, but if my client doesn't want to do burpees, I'm not going to make my client do burpees. I don't want them to cheat their way through their workouts just to say, oh, I did it, and so I think I mentioned yesterday is like that's one of my big problems with these boot camp classes is that you're writing one workout for 30 different people and they're all supposed to do it together, and it just doesn't work. And we need a lot more personalized. People want to be healthy. They know what they need to do. They might not know how to get there, and that's where a well experienced coach or a trainer can make or break the situation for somebody. And
having that objective voice, right?
Right. Yeah. And we just don't ask for help, or the help that we ask for might not be in line with how we think we need to get there. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. It's amazing how we get in our own ways.
Yeah, and I think another element of it also with people that are consistent, that do work out, or that know how to drink. The horses that do know how to drink the water themselves. It's like we very quickly also rationalize things to ourselves of, now that I drank the water, I deserve X.
Oh yeah.
I did 2 kettlebell workouts. I can eat whatever I want.
Yes.
I did this last week. This week I can take it easy.
Yeah.
So it's always, like you said, you didn't reach a destination, but it's just a kind of a daily battle.
It's my routine.
The nutrition thing, I liked what you said. I think it came from a book that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Is what you're eating today is to kind of replenish yesterday, or to build from yesterday and to prepare for tomorrow?
Yes. And so it was The Warrior Diet is the name of the book. I want to eat for today. My choices today, I'm eating for yesterday and tomorrow. And so what I'm eating, so again, it comes down to being intentional. So what I'm eating today is going to replenish what I did yesterday and prepare me for tomorrow. And that's important because tomorrow is both known and unknown. Like when I'm preparing for a competition, I know what my workout's going to be. I know what I need to eat today to prepare me for that. But also, maybe I had a killer workout in the morning, and I had car trouble and I had to walk 8 miles. So am I going to be able to eat today to prepare me for the kinds of food to get me through tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, am I going to be able to eat the right kind of food to replenish everything I did yesterday, both the workout and that 8-mile walk? And so again, if I eat for just today, I'm going to eat. If I eat for the now, if I eat for the moment, and that's not that you can't do that occasionally, but if I eat for the moment, I'm going to eat to satisfy my cravings. Like right now, I would love a piece of cheesecake, or I would love some ice cream, or I would love some pizza, whatever that is, whatever that's going to, a nice cold beer and a couple of slices of pizza. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's what 300-pound Levi would do. But if I'm like, I enjoy the exercise, I enjoy being fit, I enjoy feeling good, I want to eat for yesterday and I want to eat for tomorrow. And that was very apparent to me on the mountain as well. Like, am I eating enough to do what, not only get through today, but am I going to be ready to be able to recover so I can do it again tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things. And we don't put enough stock into our eating. We eat based on feeling. We eat based on convenience. Marketing. The amount of
like you said, even with the you said, I was again surprised here in where we in Northwest Iowa.
Yeah.
You said how even here kids flock to the vending machine for the prime drinks.
Oh yes.
Because of every
Marketing,
corner of the world, it's it's reaching only because of marketing.
And we get busier and like our the parents of the kids. I work in-house. I train a lot of kids, and so these kids want to compete. They want to be on travel teams, and they want to be on as busy as they can be. Kids go from one sport to the next sport, and that's not the conversation we're having. But the reality is that when you're going from sport to sport to sport, and you have practice and you have competition, you're never at home. You're always going to the next competition. You're going to the next tournament, and when you're doing that, very rarely are you planning your eating ahead. You're eating based on convenience and what's available. And so you're stopping at that gas station, you're going through that drive-through. And so we're just filling a void without any intentionality.
And programming kids.
That's what you do. Like I said, when Shay was very young, I was programming her as like, oh, we go on a car trip, I get this snack, I get this snack, and if we take a step back and take an outside look on what we're doing to our kids, it's sad. It's very sad. And I look at this, and I don't say this because of what I went through as a youth. I'm not, trying to blame my mom and dad for how heavy I got. I graduated high school at a very healthy body weight. I competed, all through high school. I was an overweight, chubby kid, but I lost all that body fat as I got older, and I graduated high school as an 18-year-old fit. My weight gain was from my own doing, but it was habits that I learned, growing up, but once a kid has their license and they have a job and they have some of their own income, and they are going out for milkshakes, or they're consuming alcohol or whatever they're doing, that responsibility is on them to do better. But when you have a kid that's significantly overweight, 9, 10, 11, 12, they're not grocery shopping. They don't have a job. They're not the ones that are driving to the store or sneaking out getting food on their own, and so parents, we need to do a better job. Shay's 20, almost 21. She can eat whatever she wants. I don't control. She's got more money than I do. I don't micromanage her. She eats whatever she wants to eat. But hopefully my wife and I have given her that knowledge through observational experience and what we do, that she knows that if she's going to be training and she has goals to compete and she wants to be healthy, and she's like, I know I need to eat the foods that I know I need to eat, the foods I need to eat, versus just eating based on, well, this tastes good.
Would you say something to her if you saw her just maybe making a wrong decision, even when it comes to things like this?
In time, I think I definitely would.
Like if you recognize a pattern?
A pattern, right.
But individual instances you just keep to yourself?
Yeah, nobody's perfect, and you can't be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And life is way too short to try to be perfect, or to not indulge in certain times. There's a lot of joy involved with social gatherings, and food is a big part of that. And so there's not, I enjoy going to tailgates with friends and things like that. So I'm not gonna but when that becomes like it has become in America, we're celebrating because it's Tuesday. There's a reason there's birthdays, there's anniversaries, there's special events, there's holidays. We do everything surrounded by food, and then when it's not an event surrounded by food, it's just food. We've become to just expect that lifestyle and that behavior. So when it turns into something that's not a special occasion and it turns into something that we're doing all the time, But to be, yeah, I mean, I would say something to her just because, and I think she would know at this point in time what I've been through, that she knows I'm coming at it from a place of love versus, judgment. A lot of times I've got one of those faces that looks like I'm judging you, or it's one of those things where I've always got this intensity that comes with Levi, but it's.
Were you like that before the transformation?
Yeah, maybe to an extent. Probably not near as much as I am now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look like, and even with clients, like they will, or my members will joke. It's like, you need to get somebody besides your face in here when we walk in. Seeing you after the fact, but you're not real welcoming when we walk into your gym.
That's why you hired the lovely lady?
Yes, that's why I've got much more aesthetic employees than myself. But yeah, it's one of those things where I might look like I'm not empathetic to your situation. I'm not empathetic to excuses, because I had them too. I still have them. But it's what we do with the excuses, and prioritizing. It's like, adulting's hard. It's not easy to do this life, and that's why you have to do hard things to be successful, and you need a team. Like I said, my wife made my weight loss journey a lot easier because of the support she gave me. Not everybody's got that, and I understand that. I recognize that. There's a lot of people that, both people have significant weight to lose, a husband and a wife. One wants to go on that journey, and one holds them back. It's one of those things where I see it all the time, where one of two will be successful, and then the other one is jealous and brings them back, because misery loves company. You're not going to pull your overweight spouse up to your level. Your overweight spouse is going to pull you down to theirs. And so I was fortunate. I didn't have that. I had a healthy, fit wife that wanted my goals for me, and she knew that she was a big part of that. And so I'm very fortunate. My situation is my situation, and it's not somebody else. A long time ago, I felt like if I could do it, anybody could do it. But there's some truth to that, but there's a lot of other things going on that I can't see in somebody else's life, and I'm not walking in their shoes, and like they're not walking in mine. But that only comes with experience. That perspective only comes with experience and trial and error, and the amount of people I have scared away, or the amount of times where I have been fortunate to recognize that Levi's harder to kill training is not just Levi. There's a team behind him, and so.
As of 2 episodes ago, I started asking, and I will continue asking, the same question to kind of wrap up the episode. I want to ask you about whether, if something comes up to mind, if there's something that you have clearly changed your mind over. I know maybe this was what you just said now is a nice little one, where you thought that you can change anyone and all these things, but now you don't. So I'll give you another chance. Maybe something else that maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that you were convinced one thing, and it can be in any part of your life that now you think completely different about.
Sure. So like we had talked, like, I'm a subject of one, and what I did worked for me. And so I'm going to smash you into my mold. Like, you can fit into the Levi mold and the Levi way of training, and you eat the way I eat, and you do what I do, and you'll have, and that's just not true. We're all individuals. We all have a different injury history. We all have a different emotional history. We all have different upbringings. Like, the emotional scars that you carry with you through your childhood, from your childhood into your adulthood, unpacking who you are as an individual. That's kind of a silly word. I guess you use too much, but understanding who you are as an adult, or where you came from through your childhood, like, that stuff, I think we learn to hide and to bury, and then when we don't address it, the emotional scars, come out in other ways. And weight loss itself is an emotional, or fat loss is an emotional journey. And until we really understand, like, why we choose to eat the way we eat or live the way we live, what are we hiding, what are we trying to cover, Until we have that conversation, or multiple conversations over time, we're not going to be able to actually, to get through that process. And some people turn to food, some people turn to alcohol, some people turn to drugs, pornography, whatever that self-medication is
To escape. Yeah. So you've been through, like, you're on this journey, but you've maybe been through that maybe largest hurdle, if you will. But so looking back, so what you're saying now is, it sounds like to me that it's even more difficult than it was for you in a way, or it's even more difficult than it was, or maybe at the time, if you're understanding at the time maybe you valued your journey as difficulty X, but really looking back at it, it's X times 10.
Yeah.
Because we're all so nuanced, and maybe there was one thing in your journey that could have maybe happened differently. Maybe if your wife was slightly less supportive, maybe that would have ruined everything.
Right.
So
I completely agree. That's an interesting point how you brought that up, because it's overwhelming. If someone needs to lose 100 pounds, that's overwhelming.
It seems like 1 million pounds.
Right. It might as well be 1 million pounds.
Yeah.
Correct. And so if we can get that person, and what I was able to do, probably unintentionally, but looking back, I was able to do it, was that it's one phase at a time. It's one phase at a time. So if someone was to come into me with significant weight to lose, and we will talk about what they're doing, and maybe they smoke, maybe they drink soda, maybe they eat fast food all the time. So they know, they're not dumb. They know what they need to do. Let's take one thing and attack that. So maybe they smoke, they drink soda, and every day at 2 o'clock they have a giant, coffee flavored whatever.
Yeah.
That's their kind of like, that's going to get me through the afternoon, and then I'm going to get home.
Yeah.
So let's take one of those things. Like, maybe smoking is the most deadly, like the biggest problem, but it's probably also the hardest to break. So let's take something, the soda or the coffee drink, and let's get you successful right away. Let's do one thing at a time. Let's reduce that from a medium to a small.
Yeah.
Let's go from a small to having it 3 times a week.
Yeah.
To slowly
maybe without the sweet cream on top.
Yeah. Whatever process we need to get you successful as soon as possible.
But baby steps.
Baby steps.
And achievable.
Achievable.
Baby steps.
Because once you have some success, you're motivated. But if you try to take all 3 things at once, you might be successful for 10 days, 2 weeks, but eventually that dam's going to break, because it's not a sustainable approach. So again, going back to myself, I was able to lose the body fat, was able to really find a way of training that I enjoyed. Very fortunate to have those things coexist at the same time. But then, as I got further along in my journey, okay, why did I turn to food in the first place? What was it that happened? And have that conversation, and just take ownership. Like I said, because I was at a healthy weight, and then all of a sudden I'm not. So take ownership. Like, I can blame my mom and dad all I want, but it's not their fault. There may have been some underlying habits that I held on to unknowingly. But again, I'm still the one that's doing it. And so, taking ownership, personal responsibility is a lost art in our society. And so just, baby steps, one thing at a time, owning who you are, forgiving yourself. That's a huge thing. Like, I made a ton of mistakes. Like, the Levi I am today is not who I was 3 years ago. And if I want to hold on to who I was 3 years ago, I'm not going to be, I can't look back and move forward, And so being able to forgive myself, being able to accept forgiveness from others, those are huge parts in your journey of because you can be physically fit and still be sick, and that's, you can look great on the outside, but where are you up here or in here? And that's, finding that balance is a very tricky.
It's It's been a pleasure meeting you in person,
Yes.
finally, and spending a couple of days with
Yeah.
you here in Northwest Iowa. Great seeing your gym. It is a cool place. So thank you for doing this. Please tell the listeners, the viewers, maybe your website.
Sure.
I guess they can. People who are not watching the video won't see the T-shirts.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for listening. Levi Markwardt. You can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on Instagram. Levi's HTK Training is my personal, my online. Levi's Hard to Kill Training is my website, but Levi's HTK Training is my Instagram handle. And then, or you can find Athletic Republic Spirit Lake as my business website, and so get a hold of me that way. But yeah, I really appreciate it, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.